I came home late and followed the glow of the TV. The cologne in the air wasn't mine and my wife wasn't alone. The cologne hit me before I even turned the corner. Not perfume, cologne. Something dark and cedar heavy, the kind men wear when they're trying to be noticed. I know this because I own 3 bottles of cologne and none of them smell like that, and for exactly 3 seconds I stood in my own hallway at 11:48 p.m. and let my brain do the thing brains do when reality arrives before you're ready for it. Maybe it's the candle she bought last month. Maybe the neighbor sprayed something and it drifted in. Maybe I'm exhausted and I'm smelling things. Then I heard it. A voice. Low, easy, the cadence of a man who is entirely comfortable where he is. A laugh from my wife. Soft, the particular softness she reserves for things that aren't meant to be overheard. The TV was on in the living room. Volume low, painting the hallway in that pale flicker. I hadn't turned it on before I left for my shift. I knew that for certain, the way you know small, specific facts about the house you've lived in for 4 years. I stepped into the doorframe. My wife, Dana, was on our couch. Her legs were tucked under her, shoulders relaxed, a wine glass in her hand. Beside her, close, the kind of close that doesn't happen by accident, was Marcus Webb, our neighbor. 34, divorced, moved in 6 months ago. He was leaning forward with his elbows on his knees, and whatever he'd just said had made Dana laugh again. Her hand rested on his forearm. His jacket was draped over the armrest of my couch like it had been there for hours. My wedding photo was on the shelf behind them, the two of us, smiling, frozen. My stomach dropped somewhere below my feet. I backed up before either of them saw me. 1 step, 2, into the kitchen doorway, back against the wall, heart doing something architectural. Not racing, just restructuring, like a building settling wrong after a quiet earthquake. The kind of damage that doesn't show until the walls crack. I took out my phone. Proof first. Everything else later. Let me back up, because you need to know what I thought I had before I can explain what I actually had. My name is Ethan Hartwell. I'm 31. I work rotating shifts at a logistics coordination center. Nights, weekends, the schedule that nobody with options takes. Dana is a marketing project manager, 9 to 5, home by 6 most days, the kind of stable professional life that felt like ballast when we were building ours together. We met in our mid-20s, married at 28 in a backyard ceremony with 40 people and a cake Dana designed herself. We bought the house on Marlowe Street because it was 12 minutes from her office and 15 from mine, and because the mortgage, by some miracle of timing, was manageable. I believed we were boring in the best way. That was the point. We were building a calm, deliberate life on purpose. Dana was sharp, warm, self-sufficient, the kind of person who fixes things before they become problems and makes everything look easy. I trusted her completely. I mean that without irony, completely. The way you trust the floor to hold you. You don't think about it, you just walk. The erosion started slowly. It always does. About 8 months ago, Dana started mentioning Marcus in casual conversation. Marcus thinks the fence needs replacing. Marcus works in tech, you'd like him. Marcus invited us for drinks Friday. You're working, but I might go. Always natural, always neighborly, always with the energy of someone making a point of being transparent. I didn't flag it. I worked nights. I was grateful she had people nearby. Marcus was easy in the way some men are easy. Big smile, good stories, the kind of guy who makes a room comfortable by simply occupying it. When he came over the first few times I was home, I liked him. That's the part nobody talks about. Sometimes you actually like the person, and that makes the whole thing worse later, because your judgment feels implicated. The small things collected without me realizing I was collecting them. Dana started showering before bed on nights I worked, which she'd never done before. She'd always showered in the morning. She laughed differently on the phone sometimes, quieter and more private than the way she laughed with me. Once I came home early to find 2 wine glasses in the drying rack, both clean, neither mine. Dana said she'd had her friend Priya over. Priya lives 40 minutes away and has a new baby. I almost asked about that. Almost. I didn't, because I didn't want to be the suspicious husband. Because I was raised to believe jealousy was ugly, and unfounded suspicion was its own kind of cruelty, because Dana had never given me a reason. But choice without questions becomes blindness, and I had been choosing not to see because being wrong felt less survivable than being blind. Tonight, in my own hallway, I stopped choosing it. I was in the kitchen doorway for approximately 90 seconds. That was all it took. I opened my camera. No flash. Phone angled around the door frame at knee level. Hands as steady as I could make them. Wide shot first. The two of them on the couch, the TV glow, the wine glasses, his jacket on the armrest. Then closer. His jacket. Her hand on his forearm. The 2 glasses on the coffee table. A takeout container that I hadn't bought pushed to the side of the coffee table. Some restaurant. Thai food from the smell of the room that I hadn't registered until right now. I recorded a 10-second video. Low light, but workable. The TV was showing a cooking competition. I could hear the host say a dish was absolutely stunning. The timestamp was burned into the corner of the screen. My hands weren't shaking. I want to say that. They should have been, but they weren't. I think my body understood before my brain did that shaking was a luxury I couldn't afford right now. I backed down the hallway, opened the front door the way I'd come in, slowly, no click, and stepped back out onto my own porch. The night air was cold. It was early March in Ohio. I stood on my porch and breathed it in like water. I texted my brother Ryan first, not because I needed advice, but because I needed a timestamp. Someone Someone in my life who could confirm what time I'd left, that I'd been at work, that I was the one coming home to this and not the other way around. Ryan replied in under a minute, "What's going on?" I told him in 2 sentences. He called immediately. I didn't answer. I typed, "Don't call. I'll explain later. I need 30 minutes. Then I walked to my truck, which I'd parked around the block out of habit because the street near the driveway floods when it rains, and I'd been too tired to think about where I parked. I sat in the driver's seat with the engine off and let the weight of it land. 4 years. The mortgage, the joint accounts, the vacation we'd already paid deposits on for August, her name on my emergency contact form at work, her parents' number saved under Mom and Dad, D, in my phone. My jaw tightened until my molars ached. I pulled up my contacts and found the name I hadn't called in 8 months, James Colton. James was a year ahead of me in college, now practicing family law in Columbus, the kind of attorney who wears plain suits and wins constantly, the kind whose reputation runs on results, not flash. We weren't close in the way of weekly calls and birthdays, but we were close in the way that matters. He'd shown up twice in my life when I needed actual help, not sympathy. I figured this qualified. It rang twice. Ethan, his voice was alert. He'd been awake. "Late for a social call. I need to talk to you," I said. "Tonight." I just walked into something. A pause, not hesitation, calculation. Walk me through it. I did. I told him what I'd seen, what I'd documented, the time, the cologne, the jacket, the 2 glasses. I told him about the last 8 months in bullet points, the way I'd describe a problem at work, facts first, interpretation second. James was quiet for a moment. Then, "Do not go back in there tonight. Do not make a scene. Do not text her. Do not confront him. Do not send anyone to the house. Where are you now? Truck, around the block. Stay there for 20 minutes, then find a hotel. Use your personal card, not the joint account. Do you have a personal account?" I did. I'd kept one separate since college, not out of suspicion, just habit. It had maybe $3,400 in it, which suddenly felt like the best decision I'd made in years. "Good," James said. "Tomorrow morning we file. I'll need everything you documented sent to a folder tonight. Email it to yourself first, then to me. I want timestamps on both ends. Don't delete anything from your phone." "What about the house?" I asked. "You can get a temporary exclusive use order," he said. "Means she has to leave while the divorce processes if you want that. I can file an emergency motion tomorrow morning if you do." The word divorce sat in my chest like a stone that had always been there, and I'd just now noticed the weight. "Yeah," I said. "I want that." "All right," James said. "And Ethan, I know what you want to do. I know you want to call her right now and make it explode. Don't. Let the paperwork explode it. It's louder and it lasts longer." I sat with that for a second. "Okay," I said. "Hotel tonight. I'll have motions ready by 8 a.m. I drove to a Hampton Inn off the highway and paid cash from my wallet for the room. I didn't know if that mattered, but I wanted options, and options require keeping records on your own terms. I sat on the bed in my work clothes at 12:31 a.m. and opened a new folder on my phone. I called it Hartwell Procedure. Inside went everything: the photos, the video, the timestamp, Ryan's text exchange, the saved contact for James. I created a new email address, first initial, last name, a number, set up 2-factor authentication, and emailed the folder to that account and to my personal Gmail. Then I emailed it to James. I checked my banking apps. Our joint checking had $6,200. Our joint savings, the account we'd called the Future Fund, our running joke about buying a lake house someday, had $18,400. The number hadn't changed in 4 months. I'd noticed in December and told myself it was the holidays. I noticed now and felt a cold, specific clarity. I turned on transaction alerts for anything over $50. I didn't send Dana a message, not one word. She texted at 12:48 a.m. "Hey, thought you were off at 11? Like she was checking on me, like she was the concerned one. I screenshotted and put the phone face down. At 1:10 a.m. Another one. "You okay?" 1:22. "Ethan, you're kind of worrying me." Each message was its own small thing. Individually, they could be concern. Together, with everything else, they were reconnaissance. She'd heard the door maybe, or she'd realized the time, or she was testing whether the version of me who trusted her was still out there, available to be managed. That version wasn't available anymore. Screenshot, screenshot, screenshot. Saved to the folder. At some point between 2 and 3 in the morning, my body finally forced the question I'd been managing around. Was it the first time? I didn't want to answer it. I still don't, fully. But I thought about the shower schedule change. The locked phone. When had that started? 6 months ago? 5? The weekend in November, she'd gone to a work retreat that her company's HR page, which I'd never thought to check until tonight, showed no record of. I wrote it all down, not for court, for myself. So I couldn't rewrite history later when the loneliness came, because loneliness always comes and it always lies. Sleep arrived somewhere around 4 a.m. in pieces. At 6:30 in the morning, I walked into my bank and redirected my direct deposit to my personal account. The branch manager, a woman named Patricia Osi, who had helped us set up the joint account 4 years ago, processed it without blinking. I signed the form and something shifted. Not dramatically, just the specific feeling of a lever moving. At 7:15, James texted, "Filing at 8. You have a hearing for temporary orders on Thursday. Prepare to be present." I changed passwords: email, phone carrier PIN, cloud storage, the Nest thermostat, the smart lock app, the streaming services, the utilities portal. I removed Dana's devices from my Apple account. I changed the guest code on the front door lock, the same lock I'd installed myself with my own hands on a Saturday in October, with a tutorial video playing on my phone and Dana handing me the screwdriver. I checked the smart lock access log. Marcus Webb had been added as a guest user in October. His code had been used 11 times since then, all on nights I worked, all between 7 p.m. and midnight, 11 times. I screenshot the log. I screenshot it twice. I saved it to the folder without a word, like a man adding a line to an invoice. At 9 Mai, a locksmith named Derek Paulson, 12 years in residential security, the kind of calm professional who makes a door feel like a statement, changed the physical locks and reprogrammed the keypad to codes only I knew. He handed me 2 new keys that felt heavier than they should have. At 9:34, I texted Dana from the driveway. All communication goes through my attorney. His contact is below. Do not come to the house. Her response came in 4 seconds. 4. What? Ethan, what is happening? Call me right now. Then, this is insane. You're scaring me. Then, Ethan. I forwarded all 3 to James and went inside. The house looked normal. That was the worst part. Everything exactly where it belonged. The throw pillow I'd bought at TJ Maxx because Dana said the couch needed color, still in its place. The coffee machine with the coffee she'd set to brew automatically at 7 a.m. because she knew I'd come home tired. The photo of us at her sister's wedding in Colorado, both of us squinting against the sun, her hand in mine. 4 years of small domestic decisions, still arranged like nothing had happened. On the coffee table, the 2 wine glasses from last night were still there. One had a faint smudge on the rim, not lipstick, but something. I photographed them in natural light from the window, then left them where they were. The takeout container was Thai, green curry by the smell. I hadn't ordered it. I added that to my notes. Thai takeout, not purchased by me. Present in home on night of 3/11, consistent with extended shared meal. I walked through the house like an insurance adjuster. Every room, every closet. I was looking for his jacket. It had been on the armrest last night. It was gone, which meant he'd left with it, which meant someone had been awake, which meant something had been cleaned up before I could see it in the daylight. That mattered. I documented the absence of the jacket in my notes. Item visible in video at 11:48 p.m., absent by 9:12 a.m., suggests awareness and removal. I pulled the important documents folder from the filing cabinet in the office, our original filing system, the one Dana had set up, color-coded and organized. I scanned the mortgage statement, the deed, our tax returns for the past 3 years, the insurance policies, the car titles. I saved everything to my phone and then emailed the scans to James because Maya's advice had been right, even though she'd given it to someone else. Boring documents are armor against manufactured narratives. I boxed my personal things, my grandfather's watch, my college diploma, the external hard drive with 12 years of photos, my social security card, passport, and the small notebook where I keep account numbers in code, a habit from a paranoid uncle I'm now grateful for. I put the box in my truck like I was moving equipment, not my life. At 11:58 a.m., Marcus's car pulled up across the street. He didn't get out right away. I watched from the window, not hiding, just watching, as he sat in the driver's seat with his hands on the wheel, looking at my house. Then his eyes found the new locks, or maybe the locksmith's truck still parked at the curb, and he seemed to understand something. He pulled away after 2 minutes without getting out. I noted the time. At 12:20, Dana pulled into the driveway in her Civic. I could see her through the window, blazer over work clothes, hair neat, expression controlled. She was doing the thing she did when she was managing a situation. Face composed, shoulders squared, the projection of someone who is sure they can talk their way through anything given enough space to explain. She knocked. Actually knocked on the door of the house she lived in. I didn't open it. She knocked again. Ethan, I know you're in there. Please open the door so we can talk like adults. Like adults. As if the problem were my behavior. I called James from the kitchen, voice low. She's at the door, I said. You have temporary exclusive use pending, he said. She has no legal right to be on the premises past the order. Tell her through the door that any contact should go through counsel and then call non-emergency and report that a restrained party is present. Do you have the case number? Texted it to me this morning, I said. Yeah? Good. Do it in that order. I went to the door. Didn't open it. Dana, I said. Any contact goes through my attorney. I've sent you his number. Please leave. A pause. Ethan, you're making this into something it isn't. Just let me through my attorney, I said again. Silence. Then footsteps down the porch stairs. I called non-emergency, gave the case number, and reported the contact attempt in 30 seconds. 2 hours later, a patrol officer named Sergeant Kowalski, broad, patient, the kind of cop who has handled 100 of these and finds them neither dramatic nor trivial, knocked on my door, confirmed my paperwork, and gave Dana notice that further contact with the property would violate the temporary order. I watched through the window as Dana stood on the sidewalk while the officer spoke to her. Her composure cracked the way composure does when paperwork replaces charm as the governing force. Slowly, then all at once. She looked at the house once, as if expecting the windows to offer something. They didn't. At 2:30 that afternoon, I got a message in the neighborhood app from Marcus. Hey man, I don't know what you think is going on, but I think there's been a real misunderstanding. I care about Dana as a friend and that's all. Call me and we can clear this up. He had posted it publicly. To the whole neighborhood. He wanted an audience. He wanted to be on record as the reasonable one before my version existed. I didn't didn't reply with anything emotional. I replied with one sentence: "Please direct any contact to my attorney. Details have been forwarded to relevant parties." 6 people liked my response. 3 liked Marcus's. I didn't care about the math, but I noticed it. What I noticed more, he'd used Dana's first name. I care about Dana. Not your wife or Lena from next door, or any framing that acknowledged what she was to me. Just Dana. Like she already belonged to a different context than our marriage. Like he'd already done the paperwork in his own head. I forwarded the exchange to James without comment. That evening, Dana sent an email to my old address, the one attached to our joint accounts. She'd clearly realized she couldn't reach me through the regular channels and was trying anything. The email was 3 paragraphs. The first apologizing for how this looks, the second explaining that Marcus had been a friend and support system when she'd been feeling isolated, the third asking me to please be rational and not blow up our lives over a misunderstanding. I read it once. I forwarded it to James. I did not reply. There is a particular kind of audacity in the phrase blow up our lives when you are not the one who lit the match. I want you to sit with that for a moment. The person who spent 6 months inviting someone into your home while you worked night shifts, describing your response to it as the explosion. The specific cruelty of being made responsible for the consequences of someone else's choices. I sat with it for exactly as long as it took to write it in my notes. Then I moved on. The hearing for temporary orders was on a Thursday morning in a courtroom on the 4th floor of the county courthouse. It smelled like old carpet and recycled air. Judge Miriam Foss, 22 years on the family court bench, the kind of judge who reads briefs the way forensic accountants read tax returns, presided from the bench with an expression of total professional neutrality. Dana arrived with her attorney, a family law specialist named Howard Blum, who I recognized vaguely from a legal aid charity event we'd attended together 2 years ago. Blum was competent and experienced, which meant the hearing wouldn't be easy, but it would be honest. Dana looked tired, not the careful tired of someone managing optics, actually tired, the kind that comes from several nights of uncertain sleep in a situation that hadn't resolved the way she'd expected. I had expected her to say it was nothing. That's exactly what she said. Her statement, through Blum, characterized the relationship with Marcus as an emotional friendship that had developed during a period of marital strain she attributed to my work schedule and what she described as distance and unavailability. Marcus had been supportive. Nothing physical had occurred. James then handed the clerk the packet, time-stamped photos, the video, the smart lock access log showing 11 entries over 2 months, the text message where Dana had asked at 12:48 a.m. whether I was off at 11, framed not as concern but as the kind of question you ask when you need to know how much time you have, the emails, the neighborhood app exchange where Marcus had used Dana's first name with the familiarity of a man who had rehearsed it. James didn't editorialize. He just labeled each item and put it in front of the judge. Judge Foss read without expression. She asked one question, and she directed it at Dana directly, which made Bloom shift in his seat. The smart lock log shows guest code entries on 11 separate evenings. Did you authorize those entries? Dana's mouth opened once. Then she said, "He was my friend. I told him he could." "I'm asking about authorization," Judge Foss said without heat. "Was your husband aware that a guest code had been issued?" Bloom touched Dana's elbow. The same gesture. She didn't finish the sentence. Judge Foss extended the exclusive use order and maintained the financial restraints. She also issued a notation that the court found sufficient evidentiary basis for concern regarding unauthorized access to the marital residence. Language that sounded dry and bureaucratic, and meant, in plain terms, that 11 nights was not nothing. Outside the courthouse, in the cold March air, James and I walked to the parking structure, and I didn't say anything for a while. He didn't push me. We've known each other long enough for silence to not be awkward. Finally, I said, "Did we do it right?" "You did it exactly right," James said. I didn't feel like celebrating. I felt like a house after the water damage has been repaired. Structurally sound, no longer flooding, but still obviously the place where something had happened. Still smelling faintly of the damage. Clean though, breathable. The mediation happened 3 weeks later in a beige conference room at James's firm.
Bloom had prepared Dana well. She was composed, cooperative, reasonable sounding, the version of yourself you perform when you've had time to recalibrate. She didn't try to deny the access log or the photos. She reframed them. Emotional support, not physical betrayal. A friendship that had exceeded appropriate boundaries during a difficult period in the marriage. James didn't argue the framing.
He just laid the evidence on the table and let it sit there, heavy and present and factual, while the mediator, a gray-haired woman named Carla Reeves, who had been doing this for 19 years, did the math. The mortgage equity, the joint savings, the February withdrawal of $2,400 from the savings account that Dana's bank statement showed had gone to a hotel in Cincinnati. A work conference, she said. A conference I'd already confirmed, with 12 seconds of searching, had not taken place in February. That one was new, even to me. I had been looking for one thing and found more. Carla Reeves looked at Dana over her reading glasses for a long moment. Then she said very quietly, "Mrs. Hartwell, I'd like to take a 10-minute recess." What followed was not dramatic. Real life doesn't give you dramatic. What it gives you is paper moving across a table and numbers being revised until the settlement terms shifted clearly clearly in my favor. The home equity split at 60-40, the savings account divided proportionally to contribution, my attorney's fees covered. Not everything, but enough. Not punishment, consequence. After Dana and Bloom left the room, Carla Reeves stood and gathered her folders. She paused at the door and looked back at me. "For what it's worth," she said, "documentation changes outcomes, that's all." I nodded. She left.